Where's my mouse at? There it is. So today's warm-up, counting atoms, challenging. So I made this a little bit harder than your warm-up on Tuesday for a reason, so that we can talk about it. Okay? So all you have to do is count up the atoms that it's asking for. Okay, but let's go over a few things first before we just dive into it. Okay? So we talked about 3 different sections in our notes on Monday. Okay? The first section that we talked about was subscripts. And those are the little numbers on the bottom. Okay, so like this 7 is a subscript, this 2 is a subscript, and so on. We talked about coefficients. And what was the important thing about coefficients?
They affect everything.
They affect everything. So what number in this compound is a coefficient?
3.
The big 3 here. So that 3 is going to affect every single one of these atoms. Okay? And then what was the third thing we talked about? Starts with a P. Parentheses. And the main thing about those parentheses is that if I have this 3 down here outside of those parentheses, it's going to affect everything in parentheses. Kasten, I'm about to blow up your Chromebook in front of everybody.
Whoa. Whoa. You're doing a project. That wasn't anything about.
Okay? So those are the 3 sections that we talked about, and then we went and counted things. Okay? So let's count n's on this first one. Alright? So here's my n. What numbers affect it?
The 2 and the 3.
Which 2?
The little 2. The one outside the parentheses.
Alright, so here's my parentheses. So this n is going to be affected by the 2 right outside of it.
Ow.
And what else?
And the 3.
And the 3. What'd you say, Max?
Ow.
So this parentheses with the 2 beside it is basically saying that there's 2 NH4s. There's going to be 2 N's and 2 more H's than there already are. Okay? So then for math, we just multiply everything. Alright? So the big number, it doesn't have its own subscript. And then this parentheses subscript. So 3 times 2, my answer is going to be 6 for nitrogens. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Let's move on to the next one. Okay, the same compound, but this time we want to do hydrogen. Okay, so this is an easy way that I do it. Okay? I look to see if hydrogen has its own subscript. Does it have its own subscript? Okay, I'm going to write that down. It has its own 4. Is it affected by a big number? Yes, I'm going to write down that big number. Is it affected by parentheses? Yes, because it is in these parentheses, so it's going to be affected by this 2. I'm going to write down that number, and I'm going to multiply them. Okay, 4 times 3 is 12, times 2 gives me 24. Okay, sometimes that's an easier way of doing it. Does it have its own subscript? Is there a big number? Is it in parentheses? And you just write down any numbers that involves. Okay, so we would have 24 hydrogens in this example. Now on oxygen, let's go through that same process. Does it have its own number? Yes, it's a 7. Is it affected by a big number? Yes, big number affects everything. Is it affected by parentheses? No. So now I'm done. 21 oxygens. Alright, this next example, we got to do all of them. So let's go through the same process that we did just now for aluminum. Does aluminum have its own number? No. There's aluminum. There's no number here. Okay. Is it affected by a big number?
Yes.
Is it affected by parentheses? No. So my answer is 5. Okay, there's no multiplication there, so 5. All right. For carbon, let's go through the process. Does it have its own number? Yes. Does it have a big number? Yes. Does it have a parentheses number? Yes, because it's in parentheses. Multiply all those numbers and you get 20. Is this making a little bit more sense?
Yes.
Hopefully. I hope so. Okay, our hydrogens. It has its own number. I'm going to write that down. Is it affected by a big number? Yes, they all are. Is hydrogen affected by the parentheses? Yes, because it's in those parentheses, so it has to also take that 2. 5 times 3 is 15, times 2 is 30 hydrogens. Okay, I want you to think to yourself on this one. I'm going to give you like 30 seconds. Figure out how many oxygens there are. Don't say it out loud. This is a silent activity. I want you to think about how many oxygens there are. Go through all the steps. How many oxygens are there? 20. What'd you multiply? So its own number, big number, and it's affected by the parentheses number. Okay, so you should have gotten 20 for oxygen. Okay, so hopefully that helps you with counting. Just always ask yourself, does it have its own number? Is there a big number? And is it affected by the parentheses number? Okay, and then you just multiply those if it's yes to all of those. Okay?